You want an investment edge, but all you hear is noise, hype, and half-truths. Every signal is solid information, but only if you can see the bigger picture. This is where the Quasar magic happens. Weather, charts, news, all financial signals, funneled into a single dashboard. Data alone isn't enough. Quasar Markets turns it into energy, sharp, clear, precise. Optimize with Quasar Markets today, your edge when investing.
Good morning, Quasar Markets Alive. Hope everyone is having a great start to your Wednesday. Excited, big day today. We've got my main man, Scott Bauer from Prosper Trading Academy coming on in about 10 minutes. Talk about what they have going on at Prosper. I said we should, since I do work there, and full disclosure. And then also going to have on Steve Flanagan, like always. Hey, Ron, how are you doing? To talk about everything in the world of Forex and macro look at the market. So exciting day here in front of us. Markets so far, we're going to start right with the numbers, so to speak. We are seeing advanced decline up about 1,700 here. So we've been moving to the upside all morning since 7 a.m. Now sort of towards the high of the morning was 1,800 to the upside on advanced decline. More stocks slated to open in the green than in the red right now. And we've seen the tick be a little bit of a mess here, but staying pretty close to neutral here. We haven't seen a huge move one way or the other this morning. And you can see again, since yesterday afternoon, it has stayed in a fairly tight range. So we haven't seen any huge spikes one way or the other. And right now, NASDAQ slated to open up about 24 basis points so far. SPY very close. Dow Jones, same thing. Looking across metals, gold at 37.69 right now. It has pulled back from those highs of 37.91 on the spot market. We do know that futures broke above 3,800, and both of these are all-time highs. Silver still above 44 here, showing strength today, up another 38 basis points. Also, seen a pretty good recovery by Bitcoin, breaking back above 113K. And the same thing with Ethereum, breaking back above 4150 here, using that key 4050 area as support overnight. And a nice move up in the oil by both the WTI and Brent. As we take a look also at treasury rates here, the 30 and the 10-year both moving, inching back up. And I will say, it does seem, we saw yesterday a nice little drop across both of them before Mr. Powell spoke. I guess I should say, Reserve President Mr. Powell there. And we'll get into that in a minute. And looking at the different sectors of the S&P, it is a mixed bag, with most of them getting ready to open to the upside. It does look like a couple of them ready to open the downside. Real estate, consumer discretionary, and materials, it looks like going to open to the downside so far. Some of the biggest movers that we've been watching so far today, I will mention when I look at it, there is a wide swath of projects or of companies that are trading, 2-3% above where they were yesterday. So pre-market gainers, but a lot of them hitting the same areas. In other words, we see a lot of the Chinese names involved in this, overseas names involved, and then a little bit of a bounce back by the crypto names. And then some metal names. So that while we see a lot of things moving up, a lot of them are, Pony AI, IREN, the crypto mining company, Power, QFin, the metals company, like I spoke about, Bitcoin mining companies like CIFR, and then the Chinese names again seem to be in the news. I don't see Alibaba on this list, but Alibaba was up very nicely after their earnings and reports coming out of China overnight. Again, other crypto names, Riot Mining up about 3.75, but these are just a lot of these retracing yesterday's losses. So that's what we're looking at so far. In that I'm seeing, and on the laggards, again, the bigger laggards seem to be a few of the non-energy mineral companies like Freeport McMoran, down about 7% here. ScanDisk down about 2% here this morning. Plug, which was up really high yesterday, lost all that momentum, pulling back. I mean, you want to talk about a swing. Up and around 316 was the high yesterday. Now at 238. So again, volatility, and that's what we're going to talk about with Scott Bauer when he comes on here, is going to be about volatility. While the VIX has been sort of stuck in a what I would call subdued state, there's a lot of volatility if you look at these individual stocks. We're seeing things up and down 5-6% across the board here. So we will get into that in just a few seconds here, like I said, with Mr. Bauer. So in fact, let's bring him in here and talk about what's going on. Mr. Bauer, how are you doing, Bryce?
Good morning, Howard. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. Markets, it's funny that the indices just keep on inching up. Volatility doesn't seem to be taking off when you look at the VIX, but I've been looking at your signals. There's a lot of volatility within individual stocks right now, huh?
There really is, and it's almost, I don't want to say disconcerting, but I would say it's a little concerning that we're not seeing a higher VIX. Now, when we look at what the VIX means, everybody looks on TV and they see it's the fear index, and it gauges volatility. So let me just tell the viewers out here what a VIX of where we're sitting right now, and I'm looking live right now, we're almost like right at 16. So a VIX of 16 correlates to a 1% daily move in the S&Ps. So if you look at it that way, then, VIX is probably trading pretty true, because we are seeing, on average around a 1% move, maybe a little lower, maybe a little more per day. So when you look at that, the VIX at 16 makes sense, because again, that's measuring implied volatility 30 days out in the S&P 500s. But when you talk about individual stocks, and as you know, and our signals here, yes, we are seeing higher volatility. Now, what's really interesting, Howard, is over the last several days, going even back into last week, there's started a big buyers of out of the money calls again in the VIX. In fact, yesterday, one of my broker buddies, who's a broker in the VIX pit, texted me later in the day yesterday, said there was a big buyer of February 70 strike calls. So we're starting to see that bid up again, kind of like we saw a few months ago. But nonetheless, I think volatility is pretty subdued. And, you hear me talking about this all the time, and we discuss this with our students all the time, is, if you want to remain long in the market, because this does seem to be kind of a Teflon market, and the trend is just this, grinding higher, fine, that's great. But buy that protection when you have the opportunity. And I'm not saying that VIX is necessarily cheap at 16, but for the way that things are trading, and for some of the headwinds that are potentially out there, whether it is the Fed, the economy, inflation, geopolitical risks, the way interest rates are moving, it would make sense to me to have some of that protection.
Absolutely. I talk about it all the time here. You buy that protection when you don't need it, not, before, because when it hits, it hits. And right. I almost always have followed your philosophy there. When it comes down to 15, especially down to the lower areas almost to 14. I just buy an out of the money, down the road, just out of the money or at the money call or a call spread. And then when it spikes, I sell and rinse and repeat, so to speak.
Right. And what it does is it allows you to comfortably put on other positions where you look at technicals, fundamentals, whatever it might be, and say, boy, this particular stock or this index really looks like it might pop here. But the overall market, there's still this concern. But you're able to do that because you have that protection. Like you said, you want to do that when you can and not when you have to. You don't want to buy your homeowner's insurance when the house is on fire, right?
It's going to be a lot more expensive, that's for sure. But that's a great way to put it,
Exactly.
And it's funny you talked about these out of the money calls that are coming in puts. One of the things I was reading today was about the younger investors embracing these higher variance bets on the market, whether it be crypto, the side that I'm in, what Charlie does with zero DTEs, or, everything. We're seeing a real move to that. Are you seeing that across the board too? And I don't think it's generational. I'm seeing it with my older traders in my room too.
I think that is just the ebb and flow of the marketplace. And I think that is more of that, I don't want to say instant gratification, but what has happened with zero DTE options, which has gone from, something that was, more of a, let's call it a roll the dice, to now a very, very mainstream strategy. I think what we are seeing is that, people want to have directional possibilities for their accounts that aren't necessarily a week or weeks or months down the road, but something they could potentially take advantage of pretty immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely seeing that. Hey, one of the reasons that I know you're here today, I want to show it to everybody. We've got something really, really
this is a good one
happening at Prosper, and I'm going to share it with everybody. All right, now let's add it to the screen, and
boom. There we go. Yes. So we are hosting. So for those of you that don't know what Prosper does, what Howard does over on the Prosper side is, we are market educators. We are trading educators.
Let me mute that so they can hear you.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
So we are market educators. We are trading educators. We are professional traders that teach people how to trade live in the markets, whether it's the equities, cryptos, futures, whatever it is. And so 4 times a year, quarterly, we typically have a big, what's called fly-in event, where our students actually fly into Chicago to trade with us live in our offices and down on the trading floor of the SIBO. Well, this is now the first time we are going to do one of our traders summits out live in Las Vegas. It is December 8th through the 10th. You'll be there. Obviously, I'm going to be there. Charlie and Mike and all of our traders and educators are going to be there. And oh, by the way, yes, Steve Orr is going to be there on a panel, on a round table, speaking with people. So it is a fantastic, fantastic opportunity to really get in a place where you are there with like-minded other individuals, and you are there to really see how the pros do this. And we're doing it in a setting that we've never done before, doing it at Vegas. We will work hard, and yes, we will play hard also. There are many social events, Top Golf included, dinners, all sorts of great stuff. So we are really, really looking forward to it. And, we just released this last week, and we already have over 24 people registered for this. And we're looking forward to it. So if you would like more information, you can, go to prospertrading.com. You can ping me. You can ping Howard. If you look at Howard, if you pin that video in the chat, someone can look in there to get more information.
Absolutely. And let me do that. I didn't do that yet. I did create a banner for it, but I didn't do that part. Hold it 1 second. We'll send that right out here. That is.
There we go. I see Mr. Williams in the house this morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Ron. He was congratulating you. I know you, and congratulations for me and everybody else. For those that don't know, Mr. Bauer is a new Zaidi. That is Jewish or Yiddish for grandfather. Congratulations to Alex and Juliana and to all of the Bauers.
Thank you. It's been a pretty exciting whirlwind of a couple weeks. My youngest son got married 2 weeks ago, and then my oldest son had a baby a couple days ago, or his wife had a baby.
Yeah, it'd be tough for Alex to do that on his own.
Yeah.
And I do want to point out, I've been involved with Prosper for a few years now, and what I will tell you from these fly-in events is some of the guests that have come in the past, some of the clients are the most active clients we now have.
Oh, yeah.
And consistently, whether it's Ross or Alex or Kim or Zora, all of these people just keep on talking about the results they've had since coming to those events. I know we have a big thing with Alex coming up in December. He's bringing his whole family. He had such a good event at it. So I will say it's one of those things that, this is the first time we're doing it sort of off campus. We're usually at the CBOE in Chicago. So we're all excited for it. And like you said, you've added even more than just having normally yourself to talk about options and volatility. Mike Shore to talk about short-term options. Charlie Moon, the master of AI and momentum trading and technical analysis. Dan O'Brien, who's created this amazing Karnak futures program that he does. Mike Pattern, who does proprietary trading, one of the best at that. You have myself to talk a little bit about.
I was going to say, I think you forgot someone. I'm glad.
Yeah, myself. I'll be there to talk about crypto and digital assets, and then Oliver Rennick, formerly of Schwab, now of his new project, but a guy that's great to get trading advice from. Like you said, Big Beat himself, Steve Orr, going to be there, and more. We have a lot of fun always. But one thing that I will tell you is seeing a lot of these over the years from other companies, we are the most interactive. People come and they actually get to ask us what they want to learn. And, we have our agenda, but our agenda is to bring you up to the level you want to be. So I do think that separates it all.
Yeah, we're definitely looking forward to it. And again, if anybody, wants more information, there's a link there on the screen. We would love to work with you guys and just see you out there. That'd be awesome.
Absolutely. And I will put it into the chat here also. There we go. So it's in the chat also there. If you're looking for more information, there you go. Or you can always find us at prospertrading.com. I know, Mr. Bauer, I want to get you back to your trading room, 9:30, always the most important time of the day for you. Thank you so much for joining us here today. What do you think? The market's going to continue to melt up here?
SPOs are up a little bit right now. They're up 11 points. I know Scott Bessent was talking a lot this morning. We'll have to see. But yeah, I mean, the trend is your friend, right? At some point, the trend gets broken. But right now, even with all the concerns out there, every little pullback, and I'm not even going to say we've had a pullback, right? I mean, S&Ps were down slightly yesterday, but we're still just kind of grinding higher here.
Yeah, it is amazing. A lot of people on Quasar have been calling the top, be careful, but we just keep on going and keep on going. I guess it goes to the staying, right? The market can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent.
Oh, that is the God's honest truth.
And it's funny. One other thing you just brought up that I think not enough people spend time on, I did it in my room recently, was just talking about Dow theory and trend and primary trend versus secondary trend, and breaking a trend. And like you said, we have not broken the trend yet of upward movement. We've seen some drops, but that's a secondary move. It's not the primary. Primary is still to the upside. Crypto has been a little bit different. We've been trending more sideways here, but thank you so much for joining us. Like always, Mr. Bauer, we will let you get going and into the room.
Thank you. Always a pleasure, sir. And we will see everybody soon.
Absolutely. I see Mr. Flanagan here has just stepped in and said, good morning, Mr. Flanagan. Good to see you. We'll have you on in a little bit here to talk about what's going on. Also, give me 1 second here to get my screen back up. Always great to have Mr. Bauer in to tell you what's going on. And it is funny. One of the things I did want to ask him and did ask him, as you saw, was about the fact that I noticed, obviously working for Prosper, I see all of the signals going out. And while my VIX hasn't been moving all that much, his volatility signals have been fast and furious and really doing well lately. So I wanted to ask him about the difference on that volatility. And it's definitely something that we're seeing, right? The things that are, up one day, down the next, and we're seeing it across the crypto, stocks for sure. Things like IREN that just continue. They don't break the primary trend to the upside, like we talked about here on a lot of these. Clean Spark, same type of thing. They're not breaking their upward trends. While we'll see pullbacks on some of these, very similar to what we're seeing across the indices, they just continue to grind higher and higher, which is kind of funny considering that crypto is not. If we look at Bitcoin, you can't say that same thing. We sort of maxed out here back at, the middle of August and then the end of July. We tried to make an attempt back up, weren't able to do it. Still a solid structure. And again, using Dow theory, we definitely have not broken the down, the uptrend at all. It's just a primary, this is a secondary move within the primary move. So I do think if you have not recently watched or taken a look at Dow theory, Elliott Wave, Wyckoff, some of those, it might be a good time. Sometimes it's good to give yourself a refresher on these things and get yourself back in a little bit into what goes on the markets and what we're looking at. Okay, we are about 5 minutes from the open here. Like I said, a little bit subdued here. Tick is slightly down now, about 112, but Qs have been pretty much going sideways here. Maybe a slight downward bias, but nothing here that says to me we don't just repeat the patterns we've seen. And again, if we look across most of the indices, in the S&P, we are seeing us at, positive. Materials, like I said, consumer staples, and real estate set to open slightly down. Everything else set to grind higher today so far on the open. Did want to hit a little bit before we get into the open here on Mr. Powell's speech yesterday. He did frame last week's cut as risk management, not a pivot to rapid easing. He flagged two-sided risks. He said inflation is still sticky versus a cooling labor market, so good to see that idea. And notably said equities look fairly high valued. What did I take away from that? I took away that the bar for more near-term cuts is higher than we maybe had thought, and he's fine letting data steer out the next move. Again, driving a car very rapidly in a forward direction, looking through a rear view mirror. And we did see that markets sold off a little bit late yesterday from that, but we have stabilized. Keep an eye on breadth and leadership under the surface today. And we'll see what we get. As we said, I saw Treasury Secretary was out and speaking here today, so we could see more of that. Tech could really get a boost maybe from what we saw yesterday. It was interesting. OpenAI showed their 500 billion Stargate site in Texas. If you did not see this, take a look at it, man. It is insane. It is the size, these data centers are the size of like 4 or 5 super center Walmarts, each building that is in there, not even all of them. I don't think I have the numbers here in front of me. I hate giving not exact. Let me just look. Do I have the exact numbers? I don't. But I know it was slightly under 1 gigawatt of power. I want to say 900 megawatts. So again, what them and NVIDIA talked about yesterday was, doing, it would basically take 10 of these for them to, do what they said with NVIDIA. One thing that was interesting, they only broke ground less than a year ago. So yesterday I was talking about the fact that it takes a while for these things to happen. It showed that if you really have the money and want to do it quickly, you can. They've put this thing up. It was basically all red sand less than a year ago. And they, the looks of it is amazing. It's in Abilene, Texas, outside of Dallas. It's part of a 500 billion multi-site build with Oracle and SoftBank. And one other thing I keep talking about here, one name keeps popping up again and again. It's Oracle, right? It was funny. I had mentioned them about a month and a half, 2 months ago, right? Asked Big Beat about it. He wasn't a huge fan. He didn't know what Larry Ellison and those guys were working on. He felt that they were a little behind. I think they've been doing a lot under the works that we didn't know about, or maybe we were missing, definitely missing, because whether it's with TikTok, whether it's their new connections with NVIDIA, or their drive into this data center, you can't argue with what they have going on right now. This is a great test for us because it will let us really get a good view on what this power draw, what the water usage is. Those are some of the concerns. We are now open. Let's get ready here. First move in the queue is to the upside. So Algo's taking it to the start off to the upside here. Again, our all-time high, 602.87. Can we break that today is the first thing to keep an eye on so far. Dow Jones opens up 20 basis points to the north here. Again, 46,390. Man, it's crazy. Again, broke 46 for the first time, I want to say, here on September 18th. Now trying to challenge 46, just broke 46,400. So again, markets still moving to the upside in general. I do need to take a quick look here at what's going on with some option things I've got going on. Okay. Bitcoin continuing to move up here, so cash open looking pretty good for Bitcoin. Crypto looks like it wants to have a solid day here. VIX has pulled back a little bit, 1637. You heard Mr. Bauer himself. I bring it up all the time. Buy insurance when you don't need it. I'll be looking today myself to add to maybe a little bit of an $17 call, or a little 18-20 call spread or something down the road here. Tick is fairly muted. Advanced declines pulled back on the open to 1200. So we're not quite as bullish as the pre-market would lead us to believe, although the Mag 7 so far sort of leading the way. Tesla, man, can't stop, won't stop, 430.78 and moving back to the upside. So again, man, it's been trading 4 or 5 days above its daily linear regression. So Tesla back as a major player here. People definitely moving in there. NVIDIA back trying to challenge 179 here today after taking a little bit of a hit yesterday on that major investment into AI and directly into OpenAI. Apple, a little bit of a breather here this morning. A little bit of sell-off on Apple here. A little bit of profit taken here. Could be an interesting one to keep an eye on here. If you were looking for Apple to take a breather, today could be the day it does it. Gives you a little bit of an opening. Microsoft nicely holding up at 510. I do think personally Microsoft has some of the best upside potential out of the Mag 7 personally here, or is the most undervalued of the Mag 7 right now. That changes, although Amazon pretty close too. Amazon and Microsoft, the two laggards, in my opinion, out of the Mag 7 now. If you're looking cyclically to move, those are the areas. Tick still slightly up here over 100. Dow Jones is moving up here again, now 46,430. So nice move by the Dow Jones here. Qs have pulled back almost all the way to flat on the day. So profit taking happening there. Is it the mag that's leading up to that? And it is. NVIDIA pulling back, Apple pulling back, Google pulling back, and Netflix pulling back. Let's see what's happening with the early morning flyers here. VNet, one of the early moving jumpers, still moving to the upside here, up about 8% this morning. Open Door, which had taken off, you can see after hitting highs towards $11, pulling all the way back to $7.36 here today. Albemarle, one of Steve's favorite mining companies, moving up nicely. A lot of talk of lithium today, especially with, where's my notes on that? Potential U.S. equity stake in Lithium Americas and EV supply chain. So that has them moving up today. I mentioned crypto mining stock Cipher Mining up about 7.77% here. Riot Mining up about 8.44% here, 8.5 now and running away. On the downside, Freeman McMoran down about 8.84% here this morning. Astera Labs down 10.91% here this morning. Semiconductor company. Oracle pulling back about 2% here this morning also. Rocket Labs, which jumped up tremendously yesterday, has pulled back half of those gains here, back at 50.39. That starts getting interesting. If it can come back down towards this 47 area, definitely would be interested in a play there. Micron off of their less than stellar earnings, down about 2.26% here this morning. And we'll say Seagate Technology, that was down in the pre-market, nicely bouncing back here so far today. NVIDIA's gone back to the positive side here. Tesla taking off, up 2.23%. Let's take a look at the other pumpers here this morning. We see Soleno Therapeutics taking off, up 12.58%. Iron, the crypto mining company, now up 9.55%. Like I said, Riot moving to the upside, up 9.37% here. Fluence Energy up 8.87%. So again, it's AI tech crypto names moving to the upside here. BitDeer up another 4.8% here. Galaxy Digital up another 4% here today. Mara, the crypto mining company, up about 3.9%. Let's take a look at the laggards here. Acadia Pharmaceuticals down about 12%. We've talked about Astera Labs already. Rocket Labs now down 5.87%. Also, Credo down 5.47% here this morning. So we do see some of those names that were high flying just last week with a nice little pullback here. Adobe down 2.82%. Mixed bag across chips here today. You can see AV Broadband down about 1.2, TSM down about 1.18, ASML down about 1.52. Nice bounce back by AMD here today. Texas Instruments, Qualcomm slightly up. ARM up about 1.92%. Marvell up 2.96%, trying to recover here. Nice move to the upside here. Mixed bag across the banking sector. Let's look at the different sectors of the S&P. It is a mixed bag. Energy, the big winner, up 1.31% so far. And we also see consumer discretionary up about 60 basis points here. No real big laggard. Biggest laggard is real estate, down about 33 basis points so far. We'll say copper continues to move up. Mr. Peter Thomas talked to us about copper a few weeks ago, now up at 29.17, continuing to slowly grind its way back up since that tariff drop moved it to the downside. So nice little move up, continuing to like that view for us here today. Nice little bounce back by Gemini today too. So again, crypto names sort of kind of getting into that world here. Crypto names starting to take off. Question is crypto following it? Not so far. We're starting to move back to the upside, but that 113,500 area, really the key spot that we got to break through on Bitcoin here to feel like strength is truly back. We are seeing some movers across some individual ones here. VIX has bounced back up a little bit here this morning. So it didn't give me my spot really for an entry yet, but I'm going to be watching it today. Q's really not moving to the upside yet. So we are 598.62. So a little bit of a laggard so far across the Q's. Same thing, SPY in a very similar situation. We talked about it. Dow Jones up above 46,400 here. Broke all the way to 46,453 before dropping down. Advanced decline continuing to just slide down a little bit here this morning. 1,500 to the upside now. Chinese names having a good day today. Baidu up 3.67% here today. Alibaba, as I mentioned in the open, up about 8% here today. Jumped up on their AI news overseas. Sorry, looking here at some possible trade. Alibaba's seeing a little bit of a sell-off here. Apple interesting for me here, 252. Apple definitely could be interesting here. Google also moving to the downside here. Okay, I do see my main man, Mr. Flanagan, has entered the room, and I got a lot of questions for him today. Mr. Flanagan, how are you doing today?
Doing well, Howard. Hope all the viewers are enjoying the trading day. Sideways moves still. Nothing big is going on.
Yeah, it just seems to grind its way up slowly but surely. It seems like we're going to lose that momentum every day, and it seems to find its way back, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, and then we get another, announcement of another couple of $100 billion. Now we're talking the federal government moving into lithium. So, these are all, stimulus measures, let's call it. And as long as you're getting stimulus measures, you got to get on the flow. So overall, the assessment around the world, if you look at all the IFOs out of Germany today, 85.7 versus that's for September versus 86.4. You got all the PMIs around the world. I won't repeat them all, but they're all lower, including the US. Nothing sharply lower, but continuing with the grinding manufacturing move lower. Why do I focus manufacturing? Because that tells us, where the demand is. If we're manufacturing goods, that's a good sign of the economic health. And they're all down lower. Now you've got the Fed. Suddenly, Mr. Powell has come out, as we talked on Monday, echoed exactly the mantra, the new mantra, the pivot, but there is a fracture beginning to show within the members. You had Goolsby coming out yesterday saying the Fed has room to cut rates further. We know that the new Fed member is very aggressively looking for it.
You think so?
Yeah, so a lot of percolating news under the surface, which leaves us in a grinding type of position.
Yeah, absolutely. So do we want to start with the DXY, my friend?
Let's go. Dollar index is 97.85. We broke back above last week's close, 97.65. And the point I was making was 97.83 is is that first signal to me. I've entered into long dollars. I'm staying with it. We put a new high in of 97.88 today. So now I'm focusing. I'm keeping this very tight. And that's why I highlight these closing levels. Use them in stocks as well. 97.65. What am I? 20 points away. I'll give a little discretion. So if I break below a 97.55, I'm out of my long position. And I'll re-examine it. If we come back above it, I'll re-enter that position, because even if I go in and out and just sacrifice, 20, 15 points, I know that once it breaks, I know I'm going to see a significantly higher move. 98.09 just for the level. That's the point I'm looking at, the next major break point. Get above that, and we're targeting in 98.80, and we could, reach out as far as 100 again. If I look at the components to the dollar index, the euro is the number one because it's over 50% of the dollar index, and the numbers in Germany are not good. You had today, the current assessment, as I said, was lower, PMI. You've got France, the number 2 economy in Europe. They're suffering a major problem with strikes being forecast even larger than the first round by all the unions because their budget is saying that they're going to move the retirement age from 62 to 64. And that,
Right.
believe it or not, is a big deal. So two major economies in Europe, both are suffering. And if you begin to look, where is all the growth in Europe that's keeping them above the anemic zero rate? You begin to look at some of the small, tiny countries that are growing at 4%. Okay, that's the little engine that could, and it's not going to be sustainable. So back to the dollar index. I target the dollar index, buy on dips. That's the strategy. Psychology overwhelmingly is to sell the rally. I'm looking for that 98.09 to break that psychology in the very short term here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Any other currencies we're looking at today or for this week? Who else is on deck? Anybody?
Two big ones. We got MEX. They got the central bank meeting. Bajico meets tomorrow. Now, they've had successive rate cuts of 0.5%. The last meeting only dropped it 0.25% to 7.75. We are expecting another 0.25% cut tomorrow. And they have two more meetings, November 6th and December 18th. Inflation has been just above around 3.7, 3.8, but their central bank targets 3%. So very similar to the US at around 2.8, where we're targeting 2, they're targeting 3, and they're around 3.8. Why do I bring up the MEX? Because Mexico is where all the loose money, the hot money parks itself. If
Right.
you don't want to invest outside of the US, or if you don't want to hedge the US by buying the euro, then you buy the MEX. It is sometimes the third or fourth most traded currency in the world on a day. $7.5 trillion trades in one day. And so it is something to watch. I believe that the MEX is beginning to put some sort of a bottom in. 1841.30 right now. Last week's close was 1840.17. We are above it. And I am beginning to look and target a higher level, because if we begin to look at 775 going to 75 and then two more meetings, you could see the dollar MEX down interest rate wise under 7% in an effort to stimulate its economy, which
Wow.
begins to take away the high interest rate allure of the MEX. So that's one. Number two, Swiss National Bank meets tomorrow. They are at 0%. Hello? Did I say that correctly? 0% interest rates in Switzerland. They are expected to remain unchanged. But when we talk about interest rates, I try to emphasize the rest of the world has been cutting rates, and the U.S. has been standing firm and not cutting. And that's something I believe the U.S., just like a lot of the people now, are beginning to move. The U.S. has got to do a catch up on interest rates because the world economic growth is not in a good state. And the United States just cannot stand and shirk its responsibility as an economic leader in the world.
Absolutely. We definitely need to do that. Were you surprised at all? I mean, Mr. Powell, again, data driven. He's driving that car with blinders and a rear view mirror.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's exactly data driven, but he keeps emphasizing if we need, we'll be there. If we need to move rates, we'll be there. So he's kind of reluctantly giving up the higher for longer mantra and moving into this new pivot. But he emphasizes, after trying to be the tough guy, that he quickly, jumps on. But we're seeing economic growth, and it's not as good as we would like. And now the labor market is beginning to weigh more heavily. So quickly, he is now adopting that dovish in between the reading lines approach. And I think it's going to continue. The pressure is on him to cut rates. And I think that next meeting, he's going to find that there is no more unanimous consensus. And I think that we will see more people moving to another cut. Now, Is it a half or is it a quarter? I think they would like to say a quarter cut and another quarter cut and get us well below, in targeting in that 3.5% zone. I think that would be a fair assessment. And I think that Powell, over the next couple of weeks, you'll see his comments continue to echo dovishness. So no big surprise to me. He's got to move through with the pivot.
Yeah, it seems to me to be the way that, well, again, he called it not really a pivot, but more of a one-off is sort of the way that he looked at it. He's not ready to say yet that they're ready to ease. So I do think that that's what's given the markets a little bit of trepidation here in the last, 12, 24 hours since he spoke. But, again, everything is sort of lining up to the fact of, a move to the upside for sure on the DXY. And then we'll see from there how the economy continues to react, right?
If he's going to drag his heels as he is, then the dollar is going to begin to surge, because you cannot keep the dollar down at 4% interest rates.
Right.
Especially looking around the world. And with MEX beginning to cut, you're going to start to see a flow of funds back in. What will happen is that the aggressive nature of the hedging position. So I buy $10 of US stock, but I quickly sell $6 in the currency market and put a 60% hedge. As the market goes up, I gain in the stock market. And as the dollar has been going down, I gain in my hedge.
Right.
That scenario is about to change in my estimation. My guesstimate is that that's going to change. As the dollar begins to surge, you will see inflation come lower in the U.S.
Yeah, without a doubt, that should be the way. One thing that I found interesting is, we've seen two different stories come out. One is that everybody's over leveraged everybody's already all in the market, right? But meanwhile, I'm looking at data from the ICI and from PIMCO that's saying 6 trillion is parked in money markets, 7.28, excuse me, parked in money markets as of September 17th, so a week ago. And of that, about 2.96 would be retail-oriented money market fund assets. In other words, folks like you and I, the little minnows. Are you surprised by that data?
I am surprised by that data, in the fact that there's that much still in the money market, especially as more and more market participants are now factoring in another 2 rate cuts, at least in the U.S. At some point in time, your money market rate gets to a point where, I could be putting it somewhere else. And given the nature of the market moving the way it is in the AI sphere and tech, and continuing, you mentioned that crypto and IREN, a crypto-related stock, is moving higher. And that's exactly what's going on. The top line growth in the major is beginning to filter down into that next second tier of growth, as people are looking, okay, it is here, it's not going away. Therefore, I want to look into all the people. When you look at money market funds, that's the way I think people are going to start looking. And with this type of news in lithium now that the U.S. government is interested, this is a beaten up sector. Watch that sector now and continue to grow, as well as the rare earth sector, which is beginning to grow. So,
well, that one's kind of interesting, because in theory they picked a winner. What the government's not supposed to do is pick winners and losers, because the losers today are most of the other companies not part of this deal yesterday. Albemarle getting hit really hard here. Freeman McMulkin, however you say it, McMoran, some of these others getting hit hard. So we'll see how that plays as a bigger sector, because while Lithium Americas is moving up tremendously today, and a couple of the others, there's just as many that are moving to the downside.
Yeah, and I don't think that the government is in this pick the winners anymore. This is not the way because this is a direct infusion as opposed to given aid. Look, I was a huge investor in New Earth, in all the new um, energy fields during the Obama administration because I felt with all this money going in, I still have Solyndra sitting on my wall of shame as a major investment by me. So this time around, by going in and buying ownership in the company, maybe not sitting on its board, but I think it's a different type of approach as an investor, as opposed to just, dropping the helicopter money on top of them.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I want to see more about what exactly the devil's in the details, like they said. So I want to see that a lot more. I haven't looked at it enough to see, what's going up there, except for that U.S. exploring a 10% equity stake,
Right.
with LAC. So, and again, that's, like I said, I don't know. It's a hard one for me. I do think that rare earth metals are things that we do need to have our hand in and all that, but we just seem to be getting very heavy. I grew up in the Reagan era of Republicans, and Mr. Ronald is not having a fun up in heaven right now.
I don't disagree with that.
So it just has me confused more than anything else. You know what I mean? This is sort of the moves I expect from the other side of the aisle, not from the Republican side. So that's why it's hard for me to digest it, is I don't quite, it comes out of left field to me. It's just so different than what I would expect to see.
And I don't disagree with you on that. I totally get that. And as an investor, as a stock trader, one of the hardest parts when new is always the word new, whether it's technology or government policy, newness is always highly disruptive to humans, to us, because change is not something that we take very easily. So, when we see these type of moves, it's our natural instinct as a trader is to be hesitant and say, I don't like that because that's not what I've seen or grown up with. And I totally agree. The field that I've been in since, in my career for the last 20 plus years in trading, high tech and computerized trading has always taught me, the Star Trek, boldly go where no one has gone before. It's important that maybe you don't go in as an investor or a trader 100%, but you step forward 0.25% of your investment into that new world, because if it works and if it the change begins to dwell on us, it's suddenly you bring in more of your investment. And if it doesn't, well, nothing ventured, nothing gained, and you're out. And you use prudent risk management, of course. But it's something that I've learned in the computerized trading world, being at the beginning, the infancy of it. I boldly stepped into this field, and it's worked out. I still am apprehensive when I see change, but I still move forward.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, I'm an adopter of change, crypto, and all those things. But still, there's certain things. And for me, I guess my bigger thing is I do want Congress involved in these decisions. If we're really going to do what looks like a sovereign fund, then we should have a sovereign fund, and it should be done the right way, and it should be, decided by not just one department with one part of the government. So that's the other part for me, is I do think there's going to be some wrangling, some fighting. I do think sovereign funds are very important to every nation, including ours, and we should have one. But I think we need to set one up with the right checks and balances, and everything's treated the same way. And they are investments, like you said. When Norway does it, they don't sit on the board, like you said, so to speak. They're sort of a passive investor. I love that idea. So that's what I mean, is I love the idea of it. It's just I would like to see it have come in a more, I don't know, and sort of, and I'd even point to what they've done in crypto. You know, they did a great job. They had the digital working group that Bo Hines ran, and they made a 100-page presentation to the world that says this is where the U.S. is going to stand when it comes to a strategic reserve on crypto and on digital asset regulations and on all that. If we're going to move in the world of being part of owning companies or investing in companies, then let's get that same type of thing going. Let's have it, you know, and I'd love it. I'd be a big proponent of it. I just want to see it in that way, because then it, to me, is sustainable. Something, like I said, is I don't think digital assets is just a current administration. I think they've set the regulation up for the next 20 years. So let's do that with sovereign. You know, if we're going to go into a sovereign fund, let's set it up and do it right.
And what better way to set it up right? Let's get the tariff issue behind us.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have the guys in there that know how to do it. I mean, you know, Scott Bessent is a very, very successful hedge fund manager for a reason. And so, you know, Cantor Fitzgerald does pretty good the last time I looked also. You know, you've got guys there. That's what I mean, is I love it. You know, you got the right people in place. Let's just get a framework around it that sort of puts everybody pointed in the same direction.
And let's fund it by taking the largest holder of gold in the world, the United States, valued at $42 an ounce, I think.
And have a look at it and get it and use it as collateral. I'm with you. I love all of it. We need to get somebody into Fort Knox. You know, you and I are available. If they want us to start counting the gold, bring us out. We'll do it. We just need some help carrying it. We're not as young as we used to be.
That's right. That's right. Let's get it done right, though. I totally agree with you. But I think these are the steps that we're trying to transition the economy through. I'm a little apprehensive, no question, but I'm tiptoeing and I'm moving forward because, you know, I'm an advocate. I embrace change because change is always good. And if change doesn't work, guess what? We change it again.
Absolutely. Mr. Flanagan, I've kept you a little later than I'm supposed to here. What are our final words for the day?
Okay, let's look at Banxico tomorrow, Mexico's central bank, and then let's look at Swiss National Bank. I'm expecting a 0.25% cut out of Mex, and I don't think anything happens in Switzerland. But the tectonic plates under the financial markets are interest rates, and that's where currencies dwell. And I never turn a blind eye when a central bank is meeting because anything can happen. And when money moves, it moves first, and that can portray a big market move. So while it looks quiet today, let's just keep an eye on them. I do think that we're going to continue to grind in a sideways move.
Awesome. Thank you so much, like always. Stephen Flanagan, the man, the myth, the legend when it comes to the world of Forex. We will see you guys tomorrow morning. I will have Peter Thomas on to talk with me. Going to have Scott Bauer back again. You guys seem to like him today. We'll bring him back on tomorrow and get some more insights from the legend. And we'll have Mr. Flanagan back on Friday to help me wrap up the week. Everybody, be safe out there with your trading, and we will see you tomorrow morning.